Hi guys, welcome to possibly the most exciting video on my channel to this day. It is the helicopter cross country with my dad from last summer. After almost missing our flight that morning, we were on our way to Denver, which is as close as we could get by plane to the small town where the helicopter was. So then it was about an hour from there. We did end up stopping at a gas station for hot dogs as our lunch. I don't know, I remember that very vividly because they were actually surprisingly really good. And then when we got to the place where the helicopter was, my dad took it for a little test flight, and then we packed all our stuff up. I believe I only had like one backpack with me, and then my dad had a bag and a duffel bag with all the equipment that we might need, and then we were on our way out. By the time that we were leaving, there was a big thunderstorm in the vicinity, so we tried to get out of there as fast as possible. Thankfully, we did not have to cross paths with this storm, and therefore we could just continue flying the opposite direction. At that point in time, I had very little flight experience, and the only time that I remember being in a helicopter was when I was like very little, probably around 5 or 6, so this was very new. But I was mostly in charge of navigation, and I used the navigating systems to kind of make sure that we weren't getting into any zones that we weren't supposed to, and I think that was definitely a very good intro to what I had to do for flight school later on in the year. Because it was really hot and humid towards the end of the day, it was always rainy or stormy, so we did try to avoid that as much as possible because we were in a flying bubble. And we also got to see these really cool like crop planes, and that was our day one. I was so exhausted, I honestly don't even know where we ended up sleeping over at, but the next day we were on our way to Oshkosh, which was, I believe, my third Oshkosh ever, and we were also very excited because it was our first time flying in on a helicopter. The other time my dad flew in on his plane, and then the time that I was with him, I think we took an RV there. Setup was very interesting. There were just a bunch of helicopters just parked in this area by Kids Venture where I volunteered the year before this, and we didn't even have to really talk to anyone. We just had to make sure there was no one around us, and so we just kind of landed and took a spot, which was really weird because normally you would have to like talk to tower, establish two-way communication, clearance, all that stuff, but here no one even approached us. I kid you not, this was me 15 minutes into Oshkosh because I was going to pass out, so I had to take a little nap on an ice bag. But nevertheless, we continued on to see the shows. It was honestly a very quick few hours because we did not end up even staying the night, even though the day before that we went to Walmart, got so many things, bought tents, bought a bunch of equipment that we thought we might need, including even like I think a small pot to like make pasta in or something like that. But it was just insanely hot, and also there were basically no accommodations for people that were there in helicopters. They told us that we had to like camp on a campground that was basically opposite of the helicopter, which was just impossible with the amount of stuff that we had. Oshkosh had such bad accommodations for people that flew in on a helicopter that my dad and I needed to search for a nearby airport to get fuel, which I think is absolutely insane because we could barely make it to our destination for the night, so we just didn't want to risk it in case like bad weather or something like that. But honestly, as soon as the shows ended, we packed our stuff up and we were off to Hartford, which is where we stayed the night. And when I tell you that I spent 45 minutes looking for taxi companies and Ubers, I genuinely mean it. I think that was my first time really experiencing what like a small town felt like, and it was honestly just completely insane. Here my dad asked me how we liked Oshkosh this year, to which I replied that it was very nice 5 hours, and he just said that yeah, that's around the time that we stayed there. And then we kind of proceeded to talking about how the rest of the night was gonna go. I believe that we grabbed pizza later that night and we rewatched Top Gun, which is a tradition for us. I think by the third day I got used to this lifestyle of cleaning the helicopter, taking all the stuff off. I even learned how to fuel it, which was again my first time doing any of that, and it was also really fun because we got to fly through so many states. This is actually the Chicago skyline, which was super pretty. So I have so many videos of me trying to understand when to stop fueling the helicopter because, mind you, at that point I've never even fueled a car. I don't even think I knew how to drive, but moral of the story is that I had a lot of very new, very cool experiences on this trip that I'm forever grateful for. And obviously, again, it was just such a fun way to spend the summer. Okay, so this thing dead ass attacked me a few times, so I don't think that means that we're friends, but after our little gas stop, we were on our way to Lexington where we would spend the night. I also got a little bit more used to actually flying in the helicopter because the first couple of days it was actually so bad. My dad would like hand me the control and I would just want to cry. But I think I got a little bit more comfortable, and then by the end of the trip I actually ended up really liking it. After parking the helicopter in Lexington, we got to our apartment and then went out for a really big dinner, which we both have very embarrassing photos of each other from. And also the sunset was completely unforgettable, so that was definitely a very memorable night. We started the morning off by getting our nails done, and we saw the cutest little dog there, and then we headed over to a local farmer's market. And when I tell you that I never wanted to leave, I actually meant it. Like, look at my freaking face. My dad was like joking around and saying how we had to like delay the flight for like hours, and how I was saying that I was gonna move to the city, but it was just so much fun. We actually ended up grabbing some tea for my mom and I because we are absolute like tea maniacs, and then we went to go grab gelato from another local shop nearby. It was so freaking good. I felt like I was in love and gelato, and I don't know, I absolutely love Lexington. We flew over so many gorgeous lakes. This one is one of my personal favorites. It is Lake Norris, and it was just full of boats and life, and I thought that was really cool because even though it was remote, it still kind of felt like it had a community to it. After yet another full day of flying, we made it to the Carolinas, and therefore we reached out to a friend of my dad's who actually lives in South Carolina in a small town, and we were going to have dinner with them and spend the night over at their guest house. They had the cutest little dog, and we're so grateful for their hospitality. This is genuinely live footage of a person that says that he does not like dogs and that he did not want a dog. So yeah, someone's been a little bit of a liar. I feel like a very few handful of people could say that they woke up with a freaking helicopter in their backyard, but this is what I was woken up by that morning, and I feel like this is a very niche experience, but I thought I'd just share what my morning looked like. Honestly, after my dad took his friend for like a little flight around, we were off yet again. That day we were on our way to North Carolina, Outer Banks, to meet the other half of my family, my mom and my two sisters that were actually meeting us by train from Miami. And it was such a fun reunion. We went out to go grab bagels and it was just really fun. But my dad and I flew over the coastline just to see where we were staying, and there were so many beach houses, and also we saw this like horse couple ? I don't know, we had to do like a lap around because I thought that I saw a horse and then it turned out there were two. Very interesting. Before we landed for the night, we took a little lap around the Wright Brothers National Memorial, and then we grabbed our car and we were on our way to the house that we were staying for the next 5 days. So Outer Banks was our first official break for my dad and I, where we didn't have to fly every single day. So I have barely any footage of that first day. I think I just basically slept for the entire day, and it was just very chill, very peaceful. I think I came out of my slump for the sunset, and even then I tried to journal, which is actually a cute little notebook that I got in Hartford back in Wisconsin after Oshkosh, and it was just really nice. The sunsets were absolutely insane in Outer Banks. If you didn't already catch on, we were absolutely restless, so of course the next day we went surfing. I could not even tell you how I ended up in this situation, and mind you, I'm not a pro surfer, like, at all. I feel like Lisa was so much better than me at this, but hey, we tried our best. Definitely nothing beats surfing in Hawaii, but hey, we gave it a shot. It was very shallow in my opinion. Like, when I jumped off, I literally just like landed on the ground. Also, I think I was trying to live too in the moment, so most of these videos are actually taken by my mom, so thank you for this, because I don't remember taking any videos when we were in Outer Banks, mostly just photos and just trying to kind of let the feelings sink in and you know, create the memories in the moment. After spending hours in the water, we rewarded ourselves with some well-deserved acai. We found this, like, I'm pretty sure family-owned business where we actually stopped for like every day for the remainder of our trip. And then my parents and my little sister found this kayak, and so they just decided to take a little trip during sunset time, which again, this is so cinematic. I'm like in awe. This was yet another very slow day. I don't really remember doing anything. I think we played some volleyball by the house because we ended up drowning the ball in the water, but my dad came to the rescue, and so he was able to take it out. Once again, the sunset was absolutely beautiful. I think by the end of the night, we were all just sitting and chilling in the hot tub on the 3rd floor, and it was just so insanely peaceful. I would say that the next morning we started out at the beach by playing volleyball, but to be completely honest, it was more running than anything because no one was really getting the ball, but my mom was getting those angles, so props to her. Moral of the story is that we attempted to play a few games of volleyball, and I'm pretty sure that that was just the highlight of the day because I don't remember anything else. The following day was quite cloudy, but we did end up going to the lighthouse at Cape Hatteras, I believe, and then we grabbed some dinner, and we were unfortunately not able to see the sunset that day because it was really rainy. Almost every single day the breakfasts looked like this, which was so good. We absolutely love these bowls. They were insane. Definitely recommend checking them out if you're ever in Outer Banks. And then we were actually on our way back to the helicopter because we were going to fly to a midpoint between Outer Banks and Tennessee, which is where we were going to be staying in a cabin for the next few days. I actually decided to take a small break from flying, so I drove with my mom and my sisters to Greensboro, where we stayed the night. The next morning, my smallest sister and I accompanied my dad to Tennessee with a little stop in South Carolina to visit the same friend whose house we stayed over at, I believe about like a week or so prior to this, and he treated us to probably the best burgers that I've ever had in my entire life. Before we reached the cabin which we were staying at, my dad actually decided to look at a property in La Follette, which is a city in Tennessee. They have a really pretty runway which we were able to land on, and we were met with genuinely the sweetest people ever. We met this woman that has owned a hangar which she lives in, and I'm pretty sure that she throws parties in it because she has like a party hangar and like a house hangar. I thought that was so cool. Just being exposed to all of these new people and their new lifestyles was so refreshing. Before we left, she gifted us some delicious homemade jam, which we actually ended up coming back for just 2 days later. It was so sweet to see them waving at us as we took off, and we were actually even invited for a fly-in, which I'm sad to say we never partook in, but maybe this year. Once again, we flew over so many pretty lakes, and then we ended up in Sevierville, which is where our cabin was and where we were going to stay for the next 3 days. I think by this point in time, I completely clocked out on doing any vlogging or anything like that, so all of the clips from Tennessee are completely done by my mom, unless they're like live photos, which those are mine. But the cabin was absolutely insane. These were the rooms that my parents stayed in, so this one's theirs, and then the one next door is mine. They also had a really nice kitchen setup, which I really liked, and an open living room, which was really nice when our family friends flew in the next day. And then my sisters had the top floor all to themselves because, as you can see, I ran to get that one bedroom next to my parents. I have absolutely no footage of this next day, but our family friends ended up flying in, and because it was raining, they had to stay over for the night. We took some really cool hikes around the Smoky Mountains, and then the night ended with a really good dinner and some s'mores around the fire. The following day, before our friends left, we decided to take them to La Follette and introduce them to the woman that we met. We flew flew over Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, which was really cool. They had a lot of theme parks, lots of roller coasters, which honestly is a little bit mind-boggling because to me this place is kind of in the middle of nowhere. I feel bad because I don't have any footage of this either, but when we made it to La Follette, we actually were greeted with so many more people, and the woman that we met previously a few days ago was actually making homemade jam, so we were able to taste test and actually purchase some of the stuff, which was really sweet, and honestly the jam was so freaking good. Then it was time for our friends to leave, so we did like a little dual takeoff thing, which was really cool. And then my dad and I showed my mom around Gatlinburg since we flew over those areas, and I believe this was like her first time in the helicopter since we were reunited in Outer Banks. So it was really cool just to see her reactions. And just like that, it was our last night in Tennessee, and the following morning my dad and I were on our way back to Miami. I'm genuinely so grateful for this experience and for this little bonding moment with my dad, and I just think that this was the perfect way to end my summer.